Yes, sir. Do 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 do. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? You know who it is. It's your boy Sean Spencer, one half of that dynamic duo that's Let's Talk Football, and I'm here with my guy and NCAA insider Ben Cornett, host of the Ben Zone. What is going on, Ben? How you doing, man?
I'm great, Sean. How you doing tonight?
Oh, come on now. You know what we just saw? We just saw the impossible happen. So I'm excited right now. I
Hey,
cannot.
hey, college basketball where the unexpected is becoming the ordinary, my friend.
Right. Right. I love that. I absolutely love that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Into the Madness. And hey, look, you know it has to be some kind of madness because yes, I'm still wearing Tar Heel stuff, even though we are not even in the NIT because we decided not to do that. We didn't make it into the tournament after coming a rolled ankle away from winning the national championship a year ago, potentially. But I'm still here because Ben, I'm gonna tell you something, man. You put up a little post saying how excited you were about it being this time of the year, and I said, yeah, but still my team's out. And then you made a comment. You replied and said, you'll still watch though. And I sat there and thought, and I was like, yeah, I still
Sean,
have that little hunger, that itch.
Sean, I knew you would. I mean, come on now. You're a college basketball fan like I am. I don't care if my team was like 3-29, like Cal Berkeley this year. You're still gonna watch the tournament no matter what, because like I said, the unexpected has become the ordinary, and my friend, upset galore. I don't know how many perfect brackets are left. There has to be maybe in single digits now after what was
Under,
seen.
I
And
think
we
it's like
still got games
14 or
tonight.
something.
Yeah, we still
Right.
got games going on. So anything can happen, my friend.
Anything can happen. Shout out to my guy saying, hey, I'm at the bar right now, and for real, not a single person was amazed at the Purdue upset. Makes me sad. Oh, look, let's get right on into it, man. Let's go right into this thing. So many upsets. You alluded to it, Ben. The impossible has happened. A literal David and Goliath matchup. The number 16 seed, Fairleigh Dickinson, upsets the number 1 seed, Purdue, 63-58. And Ben, you mentioned it. This is only the second time in history and in the last 5 years that a 16 has beat a 1. What? What do you think, man? How are you feeling right now?
Well, how ironic is this? The first team that it happened to was Virginia, and guess what? They
Yep.
lost to Furman, which we'll get to in a little while. But
Right.
but no. Listen, I've said this all year. I don't know if you've seen all my shows and stuff on the 2-3 Ben Zone, by the way.
Yes.
Other shows, other platforms on my pages. Purdue is a one-trick pony.
Mm-hmm.
They are a one-dimensional team. You know that dimension? Zach Edey. You know what FDU did today? Double team them. And they said, you know what? Purdue, the rest of you guys, shoot it. We don't care. You're not going to make those shots. Beat us. You beat us. Not Zach Edey. You guys try and beat us. And that's exactly what they did. They were aggressive on both offensively and defensively. I mean, they just totally dominated from start to finish. Purdue, they had moments, but again, they can't shoot the ball. And you saw, Sean, in the game, especially the latter part of the second half, where Purdue was scared. Their guards were scared to shoot the ball. They did not want to take those threes. They did not want to take those shots. They want to get it inside to Edey. And guess what? Double team, triple team, they were all over the ball. I mean, they were like flies on a rib roast, man. Like just going out and Zach was the meat.
It's an accurate image. It's an interesting image, but it's an accurate one.
Well, I just got done eating, so a food analogy was the only thing that popped
I
up in my head at the time.
I get you, yeah. but you're. Oh yeah, happy St. Patty's Day too. There's no actually. Let me get the shoes out. I got a little green in the shoes. I don't know if you can see it. It's a little green in there. You're right. Happy St. Patty's Day. But yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, watching, obviously, Cat, big Michigan State fan, so we watch a lot of Big Ten basketball. And I mean, it was pretty evident that most of the year it was Zach Edey. And once everybody closes on him, he just dishes it out. That's all that they did. And a lot of the few teams that were able to beat them, you go at Zach Edey, you get him in foul trouble, you challenge him. I think one of the biggest things about this is that Fairleigh Dickinson came in with no fear. It's funny because their coach said prior to the game, the more I watch them, the more I feel like we can beat them. And I mean, that was taken out of context. A lot of people had an issue with it, but I mean, it almost was like, I don't want to go this far, but it was almost Namath saying we're going to win the game. I guarantee it back in the day, because obviously that is an impossible thing to think. But when you look at them on the floor, Edey lumbers up and down the court. That Fairleigh Dickinson team was fast up, down the court, in transition, challenging Edey, getting him off balance. And like you said, Purdue shooters weren't shooting, and that's the difference. If you have to rely on the big man, he'll get you points. Don't get it twisted. Late in the game, he was able to get some and ones in there that kept them in, but you need to have help. You need to have help on all around, man. But this is crazy. It's only the second time this has ever happened, man. Like, what? I can't even believe it did. Like, man, where is your head at right now going forward?
It's going forward, like you said. It's just going to go straight forward. I mean, this is fun, man. Think about this. We had a 16 seed, a 15 seed, and I believe a 14 seed already advancing to the Saturday and Sunday. So, I mean,
13. Okay,
thank you.
Furman was 13. Yeah,
thank you. Appreciate it. So it's fun in a way, and I'm one of those fans that I love to see the upsets. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I do want to see those higher seeds at the end of the day get to the Final Four, because I feel like that's where we can determine who the top 4 or 5 teams really are. And I knew Purdue wasn't going to go that far. I don't think Houston's going to go that far because, again, we don't know about Marcus Sasser's injury. He says he's going to play tomorrow, but when you're playing on a groin, Sean, and you've played sports, I've only played basketball, but if you're playing on a groin or something with your legs, it's hard. It's hard. You can't. Yeah, you're never the same. So it's going to be hard for Sasser to be able to carry his team offensively. Go up against, I believe it's Maryland, right? They're playing Maryland in the second round. Maryland's no joke, man. Now, if Jahmir Young has to stay on the floor, though. He cannot get into foul trouble like he did against West Virginia.
Right.
I still think Houston will win this game because of their size and length. But Maryland, if they can just,
No. Houston, Maryland plays Bama.
Oh, Bama. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I don't have my brackets on, man.
Houston's got Auburn. They play Auburn, number 9 Auburn.
Oh, okay. Well, Auburn's Bruce Pearl. He's got a nice little core up down there in Alabama too.
Oh yeah.
I'll go Houston on that game, but Auburn can, if their offense gets clicking, especially with their front court, and that's a good matchup for Auburn because they got the size and the length to go up against the front court of Houston that can give them some problems. That's where a guy like Sasser and you wish he was 100% healthy because he could offensively carry a team along with Shed. It's a great backcourt. So when you have Shed's going to have to do the majority of the work, but Houston, if they can get contributions from other guys, especially in their front court, they should win that game. But it wouldn't shock me if Auburn, got into next Thursday and Friday.
Oh yeah. I could definitely see it happen. Look, you alluded to it earlier, why this day is important, the 16 over the 1, because the last time it happened, UMBC, and I believe it was the 16th that it happened, so a couple days ago, or yesterday, UMBC was able to upset the first ever 16 over a 1. They upset UVA, and unfortunately, Ben, UVA fell victim to another upset. Furman coming through late in the game, but I mean, not to fast forward through the whole game, but honestly, it came down to the very end. They trapped, Virginia inbounded it. They trapped him back there, and he just kind of chucked up a prayer.
He chucked it up. And I get the play, Sean, but you cannot do that. That's so risky. I mean, he was trying to – what he tried to do, he tried to get the clock to run out. When you have the ball in the air, the time goes on, and it didn't work. Furman, give them credit. They were able to get the turnover, got a big three, and that sealed it for them. Virginia, I don't think that's too much of a surprise. Offensively, they're not great because their defense is so good. They don't have to rely so much on their offense. That's a staple of Tony Bennett's teams over the years is it's defense. It's, all we need to score is 50 points to win a game. And that should be it. But, because you're in the ACC, you play them at least once a year. So, but in the tournament, anything can happen. If your offense doesn't get clicking and your defense cannot stop shots by Furman, then you're ripe for the picking. So, this doesn't really surprise me, but just by the seeding it does. But in reality, with a team like Virginia, it doesn't really shock me that this happened.
Oh, absolutely. And you're starting to see this more and more, not just in basketball, but all in football. It's more prevalent, where you're starting to see that some of these lower schools, some of these smaller schools, you get a Liberty, Vanderbilt, you get some of these smaller schools that get up here with the NIL deals and with the transfer portal. A lot of these guys are going to schools that you might not know. And all of a sudden you get a St. Peter's like from last year, where you got a bunch of guys that have played for several years and they're older and they know the game, and they're right for the pick and they're ready. So it's not necessarily by their seed because of their conference or wherever they play. They're obviously lower, but that's not indicative of how they actually play. And I think you had the same thing happen with Furman. You're absolutely right that Virginia wanted to keep it at 50. They want to keep it low, and that's where when we beat them going into the tournament, and I'm talking North Carolina, we got them into the 60s and 70s. They don't want to get that high. So when they were able to beat us, they held us under 50 points, which is exactly what we want to do. Half court, just, kind of shut down our offense, no transition, fast pace, that type of stuff. So it's interesting because it wasn't their defense that lost it. It was that an errant offensive move that happened. So, this was a huge upset. Right here, Chris said, I also had Purdue losing the second round. Yeah, no brackets are safe. We know that.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt should have been in the tournament, period. Oh, if I'm not mistaken, you guys play Michigan?
Yeah, the NIT tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon. Listen, Jerry Stackhouse is going to have that team in the tournament
yes,
next year and beyond. He's done a really good job with that program. I'm glad he's getting an opportunity to coach. And by the way, Sean, where did Jerry Stackhouse go?
North Carolina. Yes.
And, Vince Carter, 1998, yes. Baby. How about that?
Come on, man. Come on. Let's Absolutely. But
that was 95 with Rasheed Wallace. I'm thinking Antoine James. I got him mixed up.
All good. I will never stop you from talking North Carolina history and players and all that stuff. I'll just let you keep going on that for sure. So it's all I got right now, Ben. It's all I got, man.
Holy Dante Calabria, right?
Yo, hey, but moving on, still talking upsets. This was another big one. Number 15 seed Princeton upset number 2 seed Arizona. And ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, my guy Ben, well, he kind of picked Arizona to go the distance. Ben, I can only imagine that your bracket is in shambles. How are you feeling about this one?
Well, I'll be honest, it's disappointing. I mean, but I did say this, I mentioned it, I think, before we yesterday on the 2-3 Ben Zone. The one thing that could hurt Arizona is sometimes their offense doesn't click. Yep. They have games where they don't shoot the ball very well. And yesterday was kind of a good example of that. Sometimes they get complacent offensively. Their front court, I thought, could have done a better job rebounding. Princeton, I think, got a lot of offensive rebounds in that game. Princeton hit a lot of shots too,
Yeah.
And they were more aggressive, and that's something that, kind of surprised me because, Tommy Lloyd, he's come from that Gonzaga coaching tree. He was there with Feud for 20 years and then second year in Tucson. And, Arizona's an aggressive team. And I thought yesterday they kind of weren't. I don't know if they took their opponent lightly or not, but if they did, this is a lesson. You don't take anybody lightly, especially Princeton. And Princeton, you got to understand, Pete Carell, the old coach, he did the Princeton offense, with the backdoor cuts. We saw a few of these yesterday, and that's another thing that caught Arizona off guard was the backdoor cuts.
Yep.
Arizona, they're a good team, but again, they were one of those teams, and I took a risk picking them, because I thought, hey, if they're a team that could put 6 games together.
You weren't the only one,
right? But they can also stumble in a.
Right.
I didn't think the first round, but they could stumble in like the second or Sweet 16, and that's what happened. Sometimes it's just how it goes. One year I picked Michigan State to win it all, and guess what happened? They lost to Norfolk State.
Oh my goodness! Round. Yeah, well, it happened. But look, like you said, Arizona's susceptible to this. I mean, they lost to Arizona State not more than a month ago. You know what I mean? During the regular season, and Arizona State is not, nothing to write home about. So, or at least this season, when it comes to the Princeton and it comes to this type of game, one of the themes that's been going around is some of these smaller teams if they can just stick around, can just stick around later in the game. And hey, Princeton, you had that, but look, they were going toe to toe with them. Princeton shot 40% from the field. You know what I mean? Yeah. Now they were 4 of 25 from 3, but at the same time, the defense that they played held Arizona to only 3 of 16 from 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and again, it's indicative of what we said before. The front court, like I said earlier.
Yep.
It didn't impose their will on a smaller team like Princeton, and to me that surprised me because I would think your front court, you got good players on the front court. I can't say their names because they're hard to pronounce, but yeah, I mean you saw it. They didn't get enough scoring in the front court. They got out rebounded as well. So
absolutely,
they stopped being good. Yeah, that's a good point by Chris there. They went up 12 late, and then again the lack of aggressiveness. I don't get it. Part of that could be coaching too. Tommy Lloyd say, hey, all we got to do is just hold on to the ball, get a few shots. No, you gotta grind it out for 40 minutes, and because stuff like this can happen. Princeton came back, but even though they only hit 4 threes, I think a couple of them were in the last few minutes of the game, so that made a big difference.
Well, and look, if you've seen any of these games, especially the tight ones, it's been a game of runs. It's been a game of back and forth. I mean, we were talking about the Michigan State game a little earlier. A little later. Michigan State went up early. Then all of a sudden, you got USC coming back in there. Then Michigan State and USC. It's back and forth. The same thing going on with this one. You talk about that 12-point burst, and then you have sometimes guys have a tendency to coast and like, hey, this is what we're supposed to do. So let's just rate it out. But Princeton never gave up. They never stopped shooting. And they kept in this game. They hung toe-to-toe with them, and they stayed around late, and you see the result, man. So shout out to Princeton, man. This was big. And
yeah,
the thing about it, it's upsetting if you're an Arizona fan, and I know you are dealing with this, but, Arizona, this ain't the first time this has happened. This is they've dealt with this a number of times. I think Arizona is the only team to have lost to a 11, a 12, a 13, and a 14 seed. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry I had to do that to you. I saw that stat and I was like, I feel for them. So, hey.
No.
This is the tournament. This is the way it is. One and done.
March, baby. It's March. That's what it's all about. Give props to Princeton. Don't be upset if you're in Arizona. I mean, you're disappointed, but sometimes the better team won, and the better team that day was Princeton. So, and real quick, I was going to say, San Diego State, I got to give them credit. They didn't do what Arizona did. They put away Charleston. I had Charleston upsetting San Diego State. That was my 12-5 matchup that I had the upset. But San Diego State, they were over the years they've been upset too. Let's remember Florida Gulf Coast, caught them. That's what got Andy Ensfield a job at USC where he's at now. So San Diego State, give them credit. They played all 40 minutes. That's what I'm talking about. Staying aggressive for 40 minutes, not letting a lower seed come back to win, or at least tie it up, go to overtime. So props to San Diego State.
Oh, absolutely. And you're talking about a game full of ebbs and flows. You know what I mean? Charleston was right there with them. Charleston was going toe to toe with them the entire way. So, they could not afford to relax or kind of get off the pedal. So shout out to San Diego State for getting that dub. Well, let's go into, we know Thursday, Friday, there were games. Talk to me about some of the games that you saw. We talked about the upsets, but what are some of the good ones that you saw? I mean, there were so many out there, so many close ones. What are some of the games that you watch in particular?
I thought the West Virginia Maryland game was good. It had an up and down game. Both teams had a chance to win. West Virginia, they're known for their defense. And they got to Maryland early. Getting turnovers, forcing bad shots by Maryland. Also, the foul trouble with Jameer Young, their best player, getting the foul trouble, getting them frustrated. And that's what West Virginia does. But the thing is, Maryland came back. They stayed within. Kevin Willard did a great job, making adjustments, started to get more aggressive themselves, put more pressure on West Virginia's offense, which is they're not a great offense. And they were allowing early to get some easy looks at the basket. So they tightened that up, and Maryland was able to force West Virginia to make some bad shots here and there. And then, when you miss, because West Virginia, after a made basket or anything like that, they like the full court press. It's kind of reminds you of Nolan Richardson's 40 minutes of hell when they were at Arkansas. They pressure you. But if you don't make shots for West Virginia, especially in the second half, they can't set up their press because they don't want to get beat on the other end. So they have to go back. And I think that helped Maryland get back into the game.
Yeah. And also you had shooting. You had issue, especially coming out of halftime in West Virginia, wasn't able to really put up shots. Stevenson, who played all the first half, he was out for the first several minutes of the second half, comes right in and is able to shoot a three. Then all of a sudden, you paired with Maryland having very active in the passing lanes, jumping every single, pass, definitely getting some steals. But then you also had West Virginia not being able to make shots. And I mean, routine shots. Obviously Stevenson came in and tried to shoot it out from the perimeter, but, they couldn't even get the stuff on the inside. So, honestly, the fact that they were still in the game late it said more about the fact that Maryland was struggling. But, Maryland missed a couple free throws down late. West Virginia still an opportunity. But kudos to Maryland for getting it done. But I think you're absolutely right. Jameer has to stay in the game. He has to stay out of foul trouble.
Yeah, and I think tonight's game, the other game, Fairleigh Dickinson beating Purdue, was so much fun to watch. I loved it. It was a great game to watch. Again, they said, you know what, we're not going to let Edey beat us. We're going to let you other four beat us. Perfect game plan by their coach. And listen, games like this, Sean, the UMBC game, Ryan Odom coached him, right? Well, guess where he is now? He's at Utah State. Yep. He got a job there. I think his name's Anderson, right? Tobias Anderson or something like that. Okay. He'll get a call in the next year or two if Fairleigh Dickinson becomes a program that makes regular appearances every year in the tournament. Mm-hmm. That phone's going to be ringing.
Absolutely.
For head coaching job. So it's a kind of a launching pad for those young head coaches with their first job in a mid-major to get up. Look at Porter Moser with the Loyola Chicago. Exactly. Got the job at Oklahoma now. That's going to take a little time, but I think he's going to do a good job there, get Oklahoma back. And they'll be in the SEC in a couple of years. So and that'll be a fun conference to watch basketball-wise as well as football-wise. So, it's just so much fun. It's so good to see these upsets. But again, it doesn't surprise me because Purdue is not a team that is going to wow you offensively. Again, they're one-dimensional. So, But it was a fun game. Still a fun game to watch. I'm happy for FDU. They play the winner of Florida Atlantic-Memphis, which Florida Atlantic, I got them beating Memphis tonight. So we could have a 9-16 matchup on Sunday.
It could happen. It could happen. Right now, FAU is up 11-17 with 11:38 left in the first. Just quickly go around the scoreboard. You have number 12, Drake, playing Miami, down by 2 with 33 seconds left on the clock. Obviously, Montana State and Kansas State just kicked off, just over 17 minutes to play, and it's 4-2. A couple of the other games that we watched earlier, some of the games that I picked up on myself, honestly, Michigan State, USC. I had a special eye on this. Michigan State's the last team that I can say I like, that I'm actually invested in, that kept it going. And look, they came out of the gates ready to go. But I honestly, I attribute a lot of this to the fact that this is a Big Ten team playing a Pac-12 team. They don't see each other regularly. You know what I mean? So it's
they will in a couple of years. Yeah, they will.
Absolutely. We know about that transition that's coming soon. Yeah. But they really don't. So Michigan State really took it to USC. They went right after those guys, and honestly, up early. I think that they got Hauser involved. Hauser was shooting. I was a little disappointed with Hoggard's play. I mean, he ran point pretty well, but he wasn't able to. He's not doing it for me right now. He's not getting it done. He played 28 minutes and he was 4 of 9 from the field. I really kind of need more from him. But as long as we get Hauser, I think it was good. But I think the biggest thing for Michigan State in this game is that they shut down USC's best player, Boogie Ellis. Averages 18, 19 points a game, and they held him to about 6 points this game, and he couldn't get it done. Peterson, another one of their shooters at USC, he was able to kind of get going a little bit in the game, but it was not consistent enough. And at the end of the day, you had Hauser, you had guys, the big man in the middle, Siskent, dominate and able to kind of play with it, and they were ready to go, man.
Yeah, and Sean, like you said, with USC, they're kind of like Purdue in a way. They rely a lot on Boogie Ellis, because he's a great player. He's a great offensive scorer. He can get his own. But if you, shut him down, that limits USC offensively what they can do, because they don't really have a lot of good ball handlers at that point. And they don't shoot the ball a lot. They like to go inside more. Other than Boogie Ellis, who will take shots, they're more of an inside team. And Michigan State was a matchup where their players are pretty tall as well. They can, match that and, neutralize that for USC. And all they had to do, like you said, they shut down Boogie Ellis and they're able to get the win. So, yeah. And then they play Marquette, right, in the next round?
Yep. They play Marquette with Shaka Smart, right? And Marquette, that's another team that was close for a good portion of the game. And then it was mainly in the second half. When Hawkins got going, he literally kind of distanced himself. He hit back-to-back threes early in the second half, and really that just kind of changed the game. It broke it wide open.
Yep. And their team I got in the Final Four. Marquette's that good. I really do.
I can see it.
Yeah.
I'm definitely worried.
VCU, think about it. 2011.
VCU, yes. Yes. Speaking of VCU, unfortunately, VCU was not able to handle St. Mary's. They struggled throughout the game. One of their best players went down, went into the locker room, and was able to come back. But St. Mary's was just too consistent. They were able to break that VCU's press. That was huge. And there was a lot of, easy buckets that they were able to get that kind of kept VCU at bay.
Well, St. Mary's is one of those teams where, Randy Bennett, he's been there, seems like forever. And, they're kind of one of the great unknowns in college basketball,
Yep.
They have to share space with Gonzaga down in the West Coast Conference. And, they play Gonzaga. And they're one of those teams that, they're battle tested because they play Gonzaga twice three times because they played in the championship game. So they're mentally ready. They're mentally tough. They were able to handle the press pretty well against VCU. Good shooting, good spacing for St. Mary's. They're one of those teams that could go far. I don't know if they're going to be a Final Four team, but their style of play can, keep defenses on their toes and guessing most of the game. So especially if they shoot the ball well, that's going to be the key. The only problem with St. Mary's is I think they only play like 6-7 players. So they're not a very deep team. So if they get into foul trouble, that's where they could be in trouble. And, you got to try to get, St. Mary's into foul trouble if you're an opponent of theirs. And, their offense, again, they space the floor very well, shooting inside out. But again, depth could be an issue with St. Mary's going forward.
We'll see. We'll see. One of the things that they were talking about is that St. Mary's every year they build up to go against the Gonzaga, to have to obviously fight Gonzaga multiple times, and that's kind of their bar. You know what I mean? And if you think about it, if you can go ahead and do that coming into the tournament, man, you can have a day like this where you actually, shoot pretty well. But that, like you said, depth is going to be an issue, especially the deeper they get into the tournament. So let's see how this plays out. But hey, he's got a point. The Kennesaw State game versus Xavier was a solid game, and honestly, for a good portion of this, I was sitting here saying, here we go. Kennesaw State, number 14 seed. Could they do it? And I believe they could, Ben.
So did I. Yeah, they had it too. And, Xavier was able to make the plays down the stretch. Sometimes that happens, and Xavier, I mean, they're one of those teams where I only saw maybe a few games of theirs this year, but from what I see with them, they're either really good or they really have a bad game. It's like the Minnesota Vikings. They either win by 3 or 4 or they lose by double digits.
40. Right.
Something like I mean, that's a good comparison to make. Props to Sean Miller. He had a rough going his last couple of years. He was able to get back in the college game. We all know the story with the violations he had at Arizona. With Book Richardson and all his staff paying play. Now, that might not be such a problem now because of the NIL deals, but back then you couldn't do those things.
Do that. Technically, yeah.
But it's good to see Sean Miller resurrect his career again in the coaching ranks, especially because this is his second run at Xavier. So, he's going to do fine. He's always had good teams. The one blemish on his record is he doesn't have a Final Four. He's never been to a Final Four. He had a couple chances at Arizona, but it didn't work out. And who knows? Maybe this could be the year. Like I said, they either win close games or they lose by double digits. It just depends which Xavier team shows up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, and look, and shout out to Kennesaw State. Shout out to putting it together. I mean, look, they had more offensive boards. They shot better from 3-point. Now, I mean, they were still only 5 of 19, but still they shot better than an Xavier that was only able to make two 3-pointers. So, but at the end of the day, this game came down to the stripe, to the free throw line, and I mean, it wasn't even close. Xavier hit 22 from the line. I mean, that's huge. That's the difference that you see in this ball game. And it came down to it. They were able to get to the line more. They were successful and put them over the top. So,
well, Sean, that's like Purdue, and Fairleigh Dickinson. Fairleigh Dickinson was aggressive. They were able to get to the line more, and they made their free throws. Purdue, they made some of their free throws, but they also missed some of their free throws, and that was another kind of a difference in that game. Was the free throw shooting as well. So, yeah. Xavier, more aggressive team. They, got the calls and they were able to make their shots at the end. And they're playing on Sunday.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So look, there was a bunch of games. Pitt coming in, fighting for their life to even get in the tournament, and now they're going over here and look, they handled Iowa State. And you put up the post on Let's Talk College Football. It was 21-2 at the beginning of the game. Now Iowa State was able to come back, but.
That was just a very bad shooting day for Iowa State. I don't know if it was the nerves or because sometimes when you're playing on a big stage like that, Sean, sometimes we've seen it in other teams, other years, the nerves can get to you.
Yeah. Get a hold. Yeah.
Either you're rushing too much or you're hesitant. And it seemed to me like Iowa State was, a little starstruck almost like in the moment. But Pittsburgh wasn't. They were like, you know what? We're going to shock some people. We're going to tell you why we deserve to be here. And they were aggressive. They got to the 50-50 balls. They were blocking shots in the lane. They're shutting down the lanes for Iowa State to go to. And it forced Iowa State to make a lot of bad shots. They're not the best shooting team in the league, but, they can get inside. Their big guys can rebound and make baskets in the lane, but Pittsburgh shut that down,
Yeah.
and they were more aggressive. So give them credit. Now, yes, Iowa State came back in the game. I think, they were more aggressive in the second half. Pittsburgh kind of took the foot off the gas a little bit and drove with the brake lights on. But still, Pittsburgh were able to make enough plays in the end to get the win, stay on top, and then now they're moving on. So
yeah, and I mean, stat of the game is defensive rebounds. Pittsburgh sat there and destroyed them on the defensive glass. So that's stopping Iowa State from getting second chance shots. That's stopping them from getting extra opportunities and extra possessions. So hey, shout out to Pittsburgh. They've been playing in the tournament for a while. They've been playing the tournament kind of how like North Carolina was before we didn't make it. But yeah, they've been playing for their tournament lives forever. So hey, they live and survive in advance. They live to see another day. And look, honestly, the ACC has been down this year. I mean, compared to what it usually has been. But at the same time, you got teams like a Miami that's very athletic. You got a Pittsburgh team that plays great defense. Duke obviously is making strides, winning by 20 yesterday. You know what I mean? So the ACC, albeit the greatest team in the ACC is not in there, the ACC is still a formidable force. So I'm eager to see kind of what they do. You got NC State, another one. They went toe-to-toe with Creighton, and Creighton was able to pull away later in the game. But NC State, that's another one that, I mean, it was nothing to laugh at. I mean, they really came out there firing, and they had Creighton tied close all the way through the first half and most of the second half.
Well, Sean, a lot of it's matchups, depending on who you play in the tournament. Sometimes, like a Pittsburgh, I think we're a bad matchup for Iowa State because, Iowa State's a little smaller team. Pittsburgh's a bigger team, and they're a better defensive team. Iowa State relies a lot on their shooting, and they couldn't make shots today. Same with Purdue. Look at this. Sterling Dickinson's probably the smallest team in the tournament. And, they have a big, tall giant and needy that they could triple team, quadruple team. And it forces Purdue to be out of their comfort zone, happen to make shots and being hesitant. So it's about matchups, Sean, in the tournament. Sometimes you get the luck of the draw, like you see in these upsets. Furman probably was a bad matchup for Virginia,
Yeah.
This is the only, maybe the second game I've seen Furman play all year, but it looked like a bad matchup for Virginia. So sometimes it's just about the matchups.
Oh, yeah. And at the end of the day, you also have to make your shots. And when you have a one and done, you cannot afford to be, to have a poor shooting day. And that's what ended up happening with North Carolina State. Despite them being close, they only shot 37% from the field, where you have Creighton shooting almost 50% from the field. So, you know what I'm saying? You can't – a Creighton team who's very well coached, you absolutely know that. You have to be able to shoot the lights out and capitalize on their mistakes. But Creighton, to their credit, Creighton played good, and they advanced. But, hey, NC State, season done. Let's go ahead and go on. There's a number of other games. We'll definitely break those down and talk about those as the tournament goes on. But let's talk about Saturday. Saturday, we got a first starting game, Princeton, Missouri. Princeton, the 15 seed, Missouri, the 7 seed. I mean, I'm excited. We got shooters on Missouri. Princeton has the never say die attitude. What are your thoughts about this? Who do you think's going to take this?
It's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be closer than people think. Princeton, again, with the Pete Carell offense, backdoor cuts, moving the basketball around, lanes, cutting in, passing the ball without putting the ball on the floor. They're very good at that. For Missouri, I love their defense. I love their pressure on the guards and everything. They do kind of a full court press as well. And Missouri, I love, Kobe Brown. He's one of the better players in the country. If Princeton can neutralize him and not have him go off, they got a shot. But Kobe Brown's a good player. I expect him to get his, and he makes that offense. As he goes, the offense goes for Missouri. Yep. So It should be a fun game. I can't wait to see that.
Absolutely. You talked about the Auburn, Houston. Obviously, number 2 Texas going against number 10 Penn State. And I understand that the seeding is far apart, but are the teams that far apart?
maybe from a talent standpoint, but again, it's about who's hot at the right time. Penn
Right.
State is hot at the right time right now. They're cooking right now. But I will say Texas, and I'll tell you what, Rodney Terry, you got to give that man credit. If he can take his team a couple more rounds, you better sign that guy. Give him the head coach.
Yeah.
I felt so bad for with Chris Beard being fired over the domestic violence thing.
Yeah.
That kind of really put a bad taste in Texas's mouth there for a while. But I love what Rodney Terry's done, rallying that team around, getting back not only to the tournament, but they're number 2 seed. This is a team that blew out Kansas twice. Think about that, twice. They beat a great team in Kansas twice, and they got the weapons to do it. Defensively, they're aggressive. They're stingy. It's going to be a tough game for Penn State. They've never faced a really tough defense like that all year. So they're going to have to shoot the ball well. They're going to have to, they're going to have to be aggressive themselves. They're going to have to take it to Texas, and I expect them to. I think this is going to be a hell of a game, but I think in the end, as hot as Penn State is, I think Texas's talent in this game, just this game, is going to be enough to get them over the hump.
Over the top.
They played in the Big 12 conference where it's, 12-round fights every single night.
Every week.
So they're battle tested. Every night. And I think they're going to do just enough to get by Penn State. But it's going to be a very good game. It could go either way, but I'm taking Texas.
Oh, I like that. Hey, and look, we've got 2 more on that on tomorrow. We talked about Maryland playing Alabama. Then you also have Northwestern playing UCLA. In both of these games, I wouldn't sleep on the underdog.
No, and with UCLA, you got to be worried about some of the injuries right now. But here's the thing, Sean. UCLA is one of those teams where I didn't pick them for the Final Four only because of their injury issues.
Mm-hmm.
If they're a fully healthy team, they're cutting the nets down. I love Tiger Campbell. I love, Juarez. I mean, probably the 2 better scorers in the country. They're very tall, very lengthy.
Mm-hmm.
They're a deep team. Luckily they got the depth to overcome injuries, but you got to have your best players out there. And for UCLA, they can go on a run. Northwestern, they rely a lot on their shooting. They're going to have to hit shots if they're going to have a chance against UCLA. It should be a good game, close in the first half. But I think in the second half, I could see UCLA run away with this thing only because of their size and athleticism. And if they take out Northwestern's, 3-point game, it's going to be hard for Northwestern to generate some good offense, inside the lane, because UCLA clogs with their big men. They clog up the inside very well. So UCLA in that game, it'll be close in the first half, but I'm not saying it'd be like a 20-point blowout, but I could see UCLA slowly pulling ahead and maintaining.
That makes sense. So. That makes sense. Hey, what about Alabama and Maryland?
I'm going Bama, but again, what's funny is Brandon Miller didn't score a point in the game, in the first round game. He didn't score a point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's not. Now you're saying, well, that's a cause for concern. It can be, but luckily they got some good players on their team that can help them out. That's not going to help against Maryland because Maryland's a better team than who Alabama played the first round. But if Brandon Miller gets it going, if he has like 20 or more points, like 7 or 8 rebounds, defensively, if he gets it going, I like Alabama. They're a good team. They're tough-minded. Again, SEC's like the Big 12. They have 12-round fights every single game. Maybe that's not the term I should use with Alabama's situation right now, but we won't go there.
On that note,
but no, and that's another thing. This cloud hanging over them. We're not going to get into it, but hopefully they're focused enough to where those distractions are out, and if they stay focused, laser beam focused, they should beat Maryland. Maryland's a good team, but I just don't think they have enough to neutralize a more athletic, more aggressive team like Alabama for 40 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I think I got to agree with you. And I love what Maryland's bringing to the table. And, they were an 8 seed, a couple people thought they maybe were an underdog to West Virginia. I've seen West Virginia play. I was not too scared. I wasn't shocked at that outcome. But Maryland did show me some things that kind of raised a little bit of concern for me and just the style of play and obviously the foul trouble. But
Right.
Alabama is they've been lights out for most of this season. And I can't see Maryland. I could see them running with them for a while, but I think Alabama is going to take this. But Ben, we are going to stop right there, partially because I need to get I don't know where my charger is for my laptop. So
we got
I know.
You don't have to use it as an excuse.
We have everything. Look, let's talk real quick about just what is going on later tonight. Obviously, Miami has won it. Gonzaga has beat Grand Canyon. Kentucky beat Providence. Later tonight, I think the last one is Indiana, Kent State.
Yeah, watch out for that game. Kent State's
yes.
They can upset some people. But the one I'm looking forward to is Arizona State and TCU. I'm actually going to go Arizona State in this game. Like you said, they're that 11 seed.
Yeah.
Now remember, 11 seeds, they have a lot to prove, because they're on that bubble. Like people saying, oh, they don't deserve to be there. Bobby Hurley, he's a good coach, man. You think this guy's he's played? I know he's a guy that you don't like because he played for that other team.
Obviously. I'm gonna let you move on. Go ahead.
Christian Laettner, that those two guys.
You're just hey, come on, you keep going with this Duke nonsense. All right, I like you, Ben, but come on.
I know I don't like. I hate Christian Laettner too. By the way, it's a 30 for 30. It's a good documentary.
I know Las Vegas.
Anyway, enough about Duke. But I'm saying Arizona.
Right?
State.
Yeah, we can go a whole show on that right there. Right?
ESU, Desmond Cambridge Jr., good scorer. As long as TCU doesn't let him hit a 50-footer at the buzzer, I think TCU has a chance. But I'm going to go Arizona State. I think they're going to pull this one out tonight. I like what they're doing. Just they're teams that are on a roll right now. Arizona State's one of them. I could feel it. I like TCU, but it's just one of those games where it could be a bad matchup. Sometimes that happens. So I'm locked into that game. Give me that game, baby.
Arizona
awesome,
State.
Baby. Give me that game.
Yeah. It's a dipsy do dunkaroo, baby. Yo. All right. So, hey, ladies and gentlemen, definitely stay tuned for these games. I don't know what you're doing Sunday, but I think I want to do another one of these Sunday night if you're free.
I'll let you know, man. I'll definitely let you know.
Yeah, hit me up. Let me know if you're available for that.
Okay, and we're gonna we'll do a 2-3 bend zone maybe tomorrow. I'll see how it goes. I'll let you know and stuff, give you the info. Because we're gonna talk about some of the games that are going on this weekend. And let me know. And I'll be glad to, if I got the chance, I'll be glad to hop on here again, man. This is fun, man. I appreciate you having me on here.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't think of anybody else. You were the one as soon as kickoff or even not just the main games, but the play-in games. You were on social media like it's back. The madness is back, ladies and gentlemen.
A&M Corpus Christi, baby.
Let's go. I watched that whole game. I was like, oh, man, what's on? Let me watch that. Yeah, so definitely, hey, stay tuned. We're definitely going to bring you some of that. Let them know. I know you just said 2-3 bend zone, but let them know where they can find you and all the shows you got going on.
Absolutely, Sean. For those that are not my friend on Facebook, hit me up. Send me a friend request, Ben Cornett. And then there's a group called the Ben Zone. If you don't want to be friends, that's fine. But there's a group called Ben Zone. You can put it in there. Send a request. I'll put you on there. I'm also on YouTube, my show. It's Ben Cornett 9015. You can watch that on there. And I have a Twitter handle, BennyBoy702, where you can watch that as well. So those are the channels. It's 2-3 Ben Zone. It's a college basketball show. Also some NBA. I think we're not going to do as many shows after the college basketball season because it's mainly for that. But we will talk some NBA here and there every now and then. So check me out in there. And obviously check me out here too. Whenever I'm invited, I'm right here. So
okay, where's the green light? because you got the green light. Anytime you're free, hit me up because I'm gonna get you on here. Awesome. Before we get out of here, just giving a quick March Madness scoreboard. Memphis, number 8 seed Memphis, is up 32-31 with 56 seconds left in the first half. Kansas State is up 27-23 with 6:18 left in the first. And Ben, TCU, 6 seed TCU's up 17-13 with 12 minutes to play, just over 12 minutes to play in the first. So these games are getting good. Stay tuned for them. Watch them. Also, the Indiana game. We appreciate you joining us and spending time with us on this day. Hey, wherever there's madness, we're going to get into it. So appreciate you joining into the madness. Myself, Sean Spencer, my guy and host of the 2-3 Ben Zone, Ben Cornett. We will see you next time. Yeah.